we're gonna streamline the process of drawing wall sections by creating a metal stud dynamic block. So over here I have a geometry made out of lines and polylines, as you can see. Nothing fancy. Whenever I create a block, I like to first make sure that the objects are not on the wrong layer or color. So let me inspect this. This is layer 0, that's fine. This is layer 0, that's fine. The color is overridden. Uh, but in this case, I want to be overridden. Why? Because I want that when I create this block, the only color that will change is these lines over here. That's why they are on layer 0 and by layer. This one I want to stay green, and this one also I want to stay on color 8. So over here, hidden 2, I'm gonna change that to let's see. Let me see if I can find the regular hidden option. So it's right here. I'm gonna click OK, and then I'm gonna click OK. So let's see. Let's change to hidden. All right. So that dash line or hidden line is looking better, but it also depends on your LT scale variable of your current drawing. So let's try that out. LT scale, as you can see, is set to 1. So this will depend on your drawing scale or viewport scale. But most of the time, my drawings, are gonna be either at 1/4 scale, which is 48. So I'm gonna set that up to again the LT scale to 48, so I get these hidden lines more spaced out. All right, so once I checked my geometry and make sure everything is as I wanted, I'm gonna go ahead and create my block. So I'm gonna say B for block and rename my block. In this case, I'm gonna call this start and metal, right? Um, Now, I want to specify the base point on a screen. That's fine. I want to open in block editor. That's also fine. So allow exploring. That's also important. I want to give the flexibility to anyone who's using this block, so they can explore it if they want. So I'm gonna click OK now and specify my insertion base point. I'm gonna click right in this corner like so. All right, so now I'm inside the block editor, and here is where the fun part comes. We're gonna add some parameters and some actions to this geometry or this block so it can be more useful, right? It can be more interesting, not interesting, but it can give us a lot of options. So we can have all of the different sizes of metal stats available so we can draw our wall sections efficiently, right? So let's start then. And the way we're gonna start is by adding parameters first, right? So the reason why we add parameters first is because in order to add actions to this block, we 99% of the time are gonna need to set up some parameters first, and then we can associate some actions to them. Right, so I'm gonna add the linear parameter in this case by selecting like so, and then following the instructions I am gonna specify the start point, which is gonna be right here, and then I'm gonna specify the other start point, which is gonna be right about here, like so. As you can see, there is an exclamation mark. That means that this parameter needs an action. Let's add that action. I'm gonna go ahead and select actions, and I'm gonna add, in this case, the stretch action. I'm gonna select my parameter per the instructions on the command line, and I'm gonna specify the parameter point to be associated with the action. So I'm gonna click right over here, like so, and then I'll specify the first corner of stretch frame. That's gonna be right about here, and the objects that are gonna be stretched are all of these objects, like so. I'm gonna press enter to finalize, and now I have this new icon right here. All right. So before we do anything else, let's go ahead and test this, right? Let's test it. So let's go ahead and go to the test block. I'm gonna select that block, and then I will be able to stretch this as I need it, which is great, right? Now, what about stretching this on the other direction, right? Stretching it instead of going up. What if I want to stretch it down also? That will give me more flexibility. So let's try that. I'm gonna go and close the block editor over here, and as you can see, the exclamation mark still on. It is because there is a grip over here that is not doing anything basically. So that's the grip that we're gonna add another stretch action. Clicking on it, says select parameter. It's gonna be the same parameter. Specify the base point, or sorry, the point to be associated with. And in this case, I'm gonna click this bottom one. And then for the corner of stretch, it's gonna be all of these like so, and then my objects would be all of these like so. I'll press enter, and you can see that the exclamation mark went away immediately. So let's test this, because it's a good practice. You never want to keep adding and adding parameters and actions and then realize something is wrong. That will take you way more time to find where the error is. So that's why I like to do this one at a time. So let's test it. Go up. Let's see if this one works also. And yes, it is also working in both directions, as you can see, which is great. Okay. Awesome. Now, let's see if we can further expand the function of this metal stud, because in reality you will have different sizes of metal studs, right? This is the standard one, so if I measure this, it's gonna be 6 inches metal stud. Let's go ahead over here and check something really quick. Yep. So it's exactly 6 inches. Now, this is where our mm, material is is gonna be needed for the different standard sizes of metal studs. So as you can see, we have 6 inches over here, but then we also have 4 inches and so on. So we're gonna add all of these, right? So let me go ahead and do that. Let's close this block editor. And uh, before I do that, I like to rename this linear parameter so that way I don't get confused. So I can double click on it and say something like height, press enter. So that way when I add my second parameter, which is gonna be a linear parameter also, I don't get confused, alright? So I'm gonna click this point and then this other point like so. As you can see, um, I have another parameter. I'm gonna rename it. I'm gonna double click. Oops. I cannot rename it yet because we didn't add any actions. But let me see if I can rename it from the property palette. Yes. So I can call this width. Press enter. Now, mm, you see that we have the exclamation mark again, and you know why now. So let's go ahead and add actions. And of course, are going to be the same actions, the stretch, right? So I'm going to click stretch, select that parameter, and then I'm going to specify the parameter point. In this case, I want to be this one right here. And then I want the specify the corner of stretch. It's gonna be, of course, this part over here, right? Because we want to stretch now the width. And the objects, of course, will be all of these like so. I'll press enter. Now let's test this. Go ahead and test. Let's select that. As you can see, we have a problem. Since we added a, another grip now on top of an existing grip, we're not seeing any of those grips. And that's a big problem. So let's see how we can fix that. Let me close the block test. And you will see right above here that again, the grips are one on top of each other. So what I'm gonna do to solve this, I'm gonna select my parameter. I'm gonna move or select both grips holding shift. As you can see, they are red. And now I can go ahead and move them on the midpoint of my geometry like so. So that way I can stretch down also the name like so. All right. Oops, this other grip didn't move. That's fine. Let me see if I can move it. Here we go. Awesome. So let's go ahead and test it one more time. Again, the grips will never have to interfere or be on top of each other. And that's a lesson that we are learning. So now let's test it. So let's go ahead. And as you can see, it's stretching nicely as we wish, right? Now, um, what happened now if we stretch these other grips like so? Okay, those are working fine, as you can see. Now, in reality, we we never want to give the user unlimited options. As you can see, they will have the freedom to pick all of these different width, and we don't want that. So let's fix that. And in order to fix that, what I can do is let's select the width option over here, the width parameter. I'm gonna go and on the properties palette, I will have distance type option. Right now it's set to none, but there are different options that we can pick here. We can pick increment, meaning an increment every 2 inches or so on. But I want the list option. The list option will give me, could go ahead and click and add a specific distances. And that's what we want. Remember, we have these specific distances over here. We already have the 4 inches. So I'm gonna add the, sorry, we already have the 6 inches. I'm gonna add the rest. So 4 inches, 3 and 5/8, 2.5, and 1 and 5/8, like so. All right. So those are, the standard sizes for metal stud. So I'm gonna click OK. And now you can see that there are these different marks or lines over here. So let's test that. I'm gonna click test. And now I won't have the freedom to just pick any random size, but I can go ahead and stretch this to 4 inches. I can go ahead and stretch it to 3 and 5/8, and so on. That's not all, but I could also go through my properties and do that. If I go to width, I can go ahead and pick 6 inches, like so, which is great, right? Only the options that you will need. Now, let's see. Um, what else can we add to this dynamic block to make our lives easier, right? That's the main goal over here. So over here we have another exclamation mark, which means again this other grip is not being used. Let's try in the same way we can stretch this up and down. Let's see if we can also increment the width to the right as well as to the left. All right, let's see if we can do that. Add a linear parameter. We already have a width linear parameter that we can reuse. So let's do that. I'm going to add the stretch action on this width parameter. The point to be associated is going to be this one, of course. Click there. And the corner of stretch would be from here all the way up here. The objects would be, of course, all of these objects, like so, and press enter. All right, as you can see, if you hover over, let me see, if you hover over these actions, you can see what items are associated with those actions. And the one that we just added was this one right here for the width. So let's test it, right? Let's test these actions one at a time. Again, that's a good practice when creating dynamic blocks. So I'm gonna stretch this. Well, we cannot stretch it this direction because the the maximum size specified was 6 inches. So that um, make us go smaller, maybe 4 inches. And let's test this one. 6 inches. That's great. Let's go ahead and change to 2.5. That's also great.
These block techniques were great, but this is the technique that improved my workflow forever.